So 2 questions.
Okay.
How long have you been pastoring the Boomers?
Okay.
And what do you find most rewarding about that?
Okay. I have been in my role as the minister for Adult for the Boomer Group ever since May.
Okay.
And I moved from that position from the young married. So there's a huge difference between the two groups. So it went from folks that are just having babies,
right,
to folks that are having grandbabies and doing those sorts of things. And so I'd say the most rewarding thing about the Boomer Group is really the relationships. I mean, I know that I brought that up, but the people here, and I really do think that this is, I guess I could say, Boomer-wide, but it's a very relational people. They're ready to make relationships, and I think part of that is, quite honestly, the generation that is the Boomers, and our generation, which is Generation ME, very similar in that the philosophy and the sort of things that we grew up with and heard from our professors and our teachers was, it's all about us.
Right.
It's a very individualistic philosophy, and you have things that come out of that, like hedonism, it's all about my pleasure, and naturalism and humanism, things like that. And so it's very similar between the two groups. The generation that's kind of stuck in the middle isn't so much that way.
Right.
And so for our generation, it's very individualistic. And so I really think that in a lot of ways, they live their lives so much about themselves for so much a part of their life that they get to this point toward the end of their life where they realize, I've got to do something beyond me.
Right.
I've got to build relationships with people beyond me. I've got to pour into my children, into my grandchildren, so that I leave a legacy that's beyond me.
That's good.
And so there's no question that this group of Adult 4, the Boomer Group, has been more open to me, has been more willing to build relationships with me. I've had some phenomenal lunches and conversations with these folks, and that really is the most rewarding. For a young guy, when you hear about, your boss calls you in the office and says, hey, by the way, you're going to take this new division, and they're 40 years older than you are. You think to yourself, what do I have to offer to this group?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I guess they're just going to teach me a bunch of stuff, which is definitely the case.
Yeah.
However, for me to be able to pour into them and say, you need that community, and you need those friendships and that fellowship, and connecting people from what we call big church to Bible fellowship, it's those relationships, and that really is the most rewarding thing. God's called us to have those relationships.
Right.
I mean, he says that all the way back in Genesis 1, in Genesis 2, he says it's not good that man be left alone.
Yeah.
That's not just marriage relationships.
Right.
That's friendships and the fellowship that we have. The Trinity is the key focus there, with God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit having that key and integral community. That's the example that we have. And so, seeing somebody come out of big church into the Bible fellowship and that connection point, that's the most rewarding thing for me.
Awesome.